What are there a couple storylines to sort of to that end, right? As you think about what you're going to write about, there must be some priors that you have going into this that you're interested in seeing. Like for me, I'm interested, like I'm a big Rom fan. I want to see like how does Rom play, right? This is like this moment where I'd love to see him play well. How does Colin putt? Like he's been striking the ball so well. But like, what are some themes that you're thinking about that may be the threads that you might pull on for what you write about?
Well, the number one for me is it feels like Scotty and Rory against the field. I mean, I wrote this for my newsletter last week, but it's pretty rare that you get two favorites this heavy. I think their implied percentage of winning is like 30, depending on where you look, it's like 34, 35%. And you got a lot of that in the early or late 90s, early 2000s, but most of it is because like Tiger's implied odds were 40% by himself. And so you would just tack on whoever else was kind of up there. But it's pretty rare that you get two guys that are, I think Rory's like plus 650 or shorter, and Scotty is even
Juice there
shorter than
though,
that.
right?
What
Like
is it?
a lot of the juice is concentrated in those top guys.
Yeah. And so I think that's really interesting. It's like Scotty Rory versus the field because again, you don't usually get two guys that are playing that well, and that have both of them a really good history at the golf course. So that's one. I think Morikawa's, if you look at just the pure numbers, like he's playing better than both of those guys. And yet he's like, I don't know what he is, 15 to 1, 14, 12. What is he?
Six, 16 is what we just got. We were
I was
off air, we were talking about it, and I live betted on because I'm in Arizona right now. So 16 to
I
1 is
think
what I saw.
I think that's crazy. I
think
think
it's
that's
bonkers
really
too.
high.
Yeah, we agree. We're big punters.
I think
Um,
it's the top three. I think it's Scheffler, Rory, and Morikawa against the field. That's kind of where my
yeah. I think there's a little bit of well, nobody's really one of my friends, Patrick McDonald from CBS, pointed this out. Like nobody's talking about how Xander could hold three of the majors after this week.
well, I mean, Xander is just such an interesting case because I mean, there's a model just strictly off the data is gonna doesn't really necessarily know how to treat his last three events since coming back from the injury, and you know how
Yeah.
much rust there, how much is he still being hampered by something? Like, do you toss out some of that? And so, um, it's like, is he quote back? I mean, he had a really strong iron game, showing in his what was it, the Valspar, um,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Yeah, that is kind of crazy.
I think one of the other things is wow, there's always so many storylines. I mean, I think Phil's really interesting. He's 54. Contending at 54 would be just so wild. I mean, it would be truly crazy, but he finished second 2 years ago, you know? And I think I'm with you, Jeff. I think I personally, I don't know how other people feel, but I think Rom is like generationally good. And he's been, I think, historically underrated. I don't know about the odds market, but like just by golf people. And I think he's almost gotten more underrated since he's gone to live. Now he had a bad major season last season, right? Like his only top 10 was at the Open. He was really bad in the first two, I guess he missed the US Open, or which one did he miss? He missed the US Open, but he was bad in the first two. Um, but this happened in 2022. If you remember, he had a really bad major season in 2022, which for him is like not finishing at least two top tens, and then he wins the 2023 Masters. So I think guys like him don't stay in that range of like not playing well at the majors for very long. So I think he's going to have a really nice bounce back major season. I don't know if he wins one, but I think he'll contend at least for one. Um, Bryson's fascinating at this place. He's always fascinating.
I mean, he only needs to shoot even, right? 67, 67, 67.
He only the crazy part about that, which has become one of the great Masters memes of our time. He's only finished in the top 10 one time in, I believe it's 8 appearances, which is not very good. Like he's
History is not
been
great.
yeah, he's been poor. Nobody's talking about Brooks, which who's a five-time major champion who's playing okay. And then, you know, one of the big things is like we haven't had a bad, quote unquote, bad winter since we were talking about this at lunch since probably will it,
Yeah, I think so.
depending on how you feel about Patrick Reed, but probably will it. And if you look, one of my favorite stats in the last 20 years, only one player has been outside the top 10 after the first round and gone on to win. And that player is Tiger Woods, and he did it twice. He did it in 2005, he did it in 2019. So if you look at the top 10 on Thursday night, your winner's probably coming from that group on Thursday.
Can I follow up on that? Because we always hear it's such a hard event to kind of come back on. And unlike a lot of PGA Tour events where you have on the weekend split tees and more concentrated tee times, like you don't have that at the Masters, and you have guys teeing off throughout the day. So there's going to be more there's going to be more weather differences, which theoretically should sort of help the chasers because they can be in more favorable weather conditions. Like, why do you think it is that the Masters does see winners so often that are at the top early and going to the final round it's the same kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's course layout. I'm not a huge architecture guy, but if you read the architecture people, they talk about how this is a golf course where it's easy for idiots like us to go shoot sub 90 golf, and it's really hard for pros to shoot um, sub 67 golf. Shout out to Bryson. Um, and so what happens is when you get to the weekend and guys are having to chase, they're making decisions that are maybe not that are kind of riddled with risk. And when you start doing that, it becomes very easy to make. I was just looking last year, Morikawa doubles 9 in the final round last year. He doubles 11. It gets easy to make tiny mistakes that lead to big numbers in a way that I think other golf courses. I mean, I don't know, man. We go to some of these PGA championships and you're like, I don't think you can make double in this round. I think bogey's the highest score you can feasibly make. And that's just not true here. And so what happens when Scotty gets a 4 shot lead, a conservative player gets even more conservative and it leads to par, par, par. He'll make birdie at the par fives. But then if you're chasing, you're having to take on a pin on 11 or take on that second shot on 15 that's a little bit uncomfortable from where you're at. And if you miss any of those shots whatsoever, it just leads to doubles very quickly. And so I think you almost have to be perfect when you're chasing in a way that you don't necessarily have to be at other major championships.
That's interesting. And it doesn't mean that I mean, the possibility for double bogeys and big scores means that it's not necessarily easy to hold the lead and you can get guys ejecting, but it's going to be someone else sort of at the top that sort of takes over that
No,
spot.
but I think it is easier to hold the lead because like I said, I think it's most of these holes, it's not really that hard to make par if you're playing for par, right? If you're trying to make 4, you mostly can. But if you're trying to make 3, you might make 6. And so when you get, like I said, with a Scotty, like he'll just par, he'll just par you to death, and then he'll make a 4 on 13, and you're like, gosh, he's 2 under, and I'm having to like chase, and it gets hard. It gets very, very difficult when you're playing that when you're taking on a lot of risk when the guy at the very top doesn't have to make a bunch of pars.
I mean, we do think about some of these meltdowns. I mean, Rory on the back nine at what was that, 2010,
11.
2011. Spieth dunking 2 balls in Rays Creek, that whatever year that was. I mean, Greg Norman blowing that big lead. But I mean, those are going to happen from time to time anyway.
Yeah, and some of that's psychological. It's a place that I wrote about this week for my website, but it's a place that it's kind of a weird place in that it's such a big stage, but it's also very intimate and familiar. I mean, everybody knows every inch of this place just from watching it and watching it and watching it and seeing the highlights. And so it creates this weird juxtaposition where it's grandiose and huge, but also like a really intimate, um, like almost vulnerable place. And so it just gets in your head. I mean, we've heard Ernie Els talk about how it's a place that just messes with your mind. And so not only are you struggling with like trying to make threes and twos, you're also struggling with mentally. It's just such a unique and different situation. There's so much pressure on you if you're a Rory, if you're a now Scotty, if you're a Morikawa, and people are like, well, he hasn't won a non-COVID major championship. So you start to feel some of that, and it starts to get in your head and mess with you in a way that I don't think it does at other major venues.
Bet the process.